Hello guys, it's Nymmy and welcome back to my channel, and today we are tackling two habitats, and the reason we're doing that is because the habitats are very similar. They're very similar animals, the surroundings are similar, they're in the same area, and the habitats weren't that massive because those animals just don't need it. So today, as you probably already saw by the title, we are building the habitat for the Komono dragon and for the Nile monitor. And we are actually trying to do this amazing viewing area because I wanted the habitats to have like a sunken pit and be almost like surrounded by water. But if I didn't have like a viewing point above it, you would have very little viewpoints. You would only have the pathway and that was it. And you know, the guests in Planet Zoo, they will start complaining, oh, I can't see the Komono dragon from here. And I was like, well, you know what, then we're just gonna have to make a viewing point where the guests can walk up and then they can just view it from the top as well. So that was what we were going for. Now, Komono dragons aren't that like large animals. They're pretty small actually. They don't need a lot of space. So there aren't really that big of a habitat. But what we are building is a cave for them. So even though it's not a big habitat, we are trying to make it interesting and fun for them to be in. So we need to make it look very pretty. So in the front of the habitat we are going to have the one-way glass for the animals so the guests can just look at them through the glass, and then everything else will be no barriers. And we will be placing a lot of desert and grassland rocks because those are the biomes that the Komono dragon lives in. And we will make sure that we actually have a beautiful rock scenery. And we aren't even there yet in the video because right now we are trying to mess with the path system. I'm getting the hang of it, like I'm getting better and better at it. Still not very good at it, but I'm getting better. So that's a plus point. It's a very good plus point, even if I say so myself. So this video is coming out on Sunday. You are going to have a bonus video. And that is basically because I pre-recorded it and then I found out that there was a new pack coming, the Australia pack, and the Australia pack is coming on Tuesday the 25th of August. So obviously we're not gonna have a video of the WoodLand Zoo, but we are going to have a video like containing all the Australian animals and the buy catalog and everything surrounding the Australia pack and everything. So stay tuned for that. That will be up somewhere next week. I'm hoping that I can do that on Tuesday when the pack comes out, but to be honest, I'm not sure if I can manage that because I also have a full-time job that requires a lot of my attention and my time. So we'll see. Like, if it's not on Tuesday, it will be up at least in the coming week. So, you know, stay tuned for that. But before we get like the Australia pack and can actually view what's all in there, we are going back to this habitat because this is what we are building right now. And you see me here placing a lot of rocks, and what I usually do, I place the big rock first, and then it looks pretty boring, just only big rocks. So we are rotating some smaller rocks, we're placing them in, and then it's making it look more interesting. So you can see me doing here right now, you need to get the hang of it, of where you need to place the rocks and how you need to place the rocks, because you want them to look like one, like big, like one hole. You don't want it to look weird, and sometimes it can look a little bit weird. So rocks always, like, they ask your attention. You need to be careful with them. Always be careful with rocks. And I could go on and on about rock placing, but you know, we have done that for so many episodes already, because I use only as much null barriers as I can, because sometimes you have to use other barriers, but I love using null barriers. So at some point you just have to go for it, and this is what we have. So we are gonna make sure that the Komono dragons can't actually escape. So we have to fill up all the little pieces, and I wasn't actually sure if Komono dragons could climb rocks. I don't think they can, because you don't have any escapable points at the moment. But I was just wanted to check, because I wasn't actually sure. I was like, can they escape? Can they climb rocks? Can they not? I've never seen a Komono dragon in real life. I've never seen one in the zoo. That's not true. I've seen one in the zoo. Like, I went to the zoo recently And I was in the reptile home and I was like, what animal is this? And I looked at it, I was like, this looks like a Komono dragon. I know this because I play Planet Zoo. And then I looked at the sign and it actually was the Komono dragon, and I felt so badass. Like really, really badass. So, you know, Planet Zoo helps you recognize more animals. Fun story. So I went to the zoo, right? And I was with some friends and we were talking, and I was like, oh yeah, look, this was really nice. And I was taking pictures of all the habitats to get like inspiration. And I was talking to my friends and I was like, you know what, this looks like, I don't know, like, oh, this habitat, I have this in my zoo as well. And then I started to explain to my friends how I built it in my zoo. And, you know, my friends know I play Planet Zoo, so I don't have to like explain that, oh, in Planet Zoo, the game that I play, they know I play it. So I can just say, oh, in my zoo. Only like people listen to your conversations in public, and I didn't realize that. So I was telling this incredible story of my habitats in my own zoo. So this zoo, I think I was talking about my capuchin monkey. I was talking about my capuchin monkey habitats. So if you haven't watched the video about my capuchin monkey, make sure you check it out. There's a playlist linked at the end of the video. Anyway, back to the story. So I was talking about how my habitat in my zoo had this bridge going through the capuchin monkey habitat, and it was all nice, and I was having this entire conversation about how I built it and what kind of materials I used. And then I looked like behind me, and there were these people just staring at me with a look in their eye like, she has her own zoo? Where is this zoo? And it was really fun actually, because I didn't realize that me talking about my zoo, as in Planet Zoo, people would actually think that I own a zoo. So, you know, I thought that was pretty funny. So yeah, and to be honest, I was like, you know what, I'm not actually going to like explain or let people notice that it's a game. I was like, you know what, let them think that I own a zoo. That could be fun. So now those people think that I own a zoo, so that's really fun. I thought it was amusing. Anyways, we're going back to the build. So at the moment you can see me building sort of an oasis, because the Komono dragon lives in Africa and he has the tropical and grassland biome. There isn't actually a lot of plants and a lot of green that you can place, because he really likes sandy areas. So I thought, you know what, so he lives in the desert, so we're going to make an oasis. So we had this little patch of like water, and then some green surrounding it and some plants. And it actually looks pretty nice, like a real oasis that you would see in the desert. And I thought it was still a little bit boring, the habitat, so we are nicing it up and we are using actually some rocks. And these are the tropical rocks mixed in with some grassland rocks, just to make them like have a little bit of shelter, because the Komodo dragons are actually like grayish themselves. So when they are lying on that rock, you actually won't be able to see them. And I thought it was pretty clever of myself. At least I thought it was. So. And now we are just placing the final things in the habitat. So we are gonna place some hay in there. We're also gonna place some heaters, because the Komodo dragon loves warm areas, and we are building in a temperate biome, I think. Yeah, we are building a temperate biome. So in the winter it can get really cold. And obviously we don't want that for a Komodo dragon, because we want them to be nice and warm all the time, because that's what they need. So hence, you know, that's why we're doing that. We're now just placing some like education things, just to make sure, you know, that our guests get educated, because that's pretty important in the guest rating as well. And we are placing some information stands, you know, because you want to inform people about what they have and everything, you know, about the Komodo dragon. And at this point I was like, you know what, actually this viewing platform, it needs something else. It needs more animals, because at the moment you have like 4 viewing points, the way I see it. You have downstairs with the glass, you have on the stairs, then you have on top of the viewing point. You can either look down in the hole that we're looking at right now, you can see the habitat, or you can look down on the right side there, where you can actually look over the habitat where those people are standing. And I thought it was actually pretty boring just to have a viewpoint for one animal. So around here was the point where I decided, you know what, we are going to need to add more animals in here. So we are going to add a Nile monitor on the left side of this habitat. But before we do any of that, we have to make sure that we completely finish this area for our Komono dragon. So that includes lights as well, it includes benches, it includes bins, obviously donation boxes because we want that money. Now, and it's a very good tip, like if you play Planet Zoo, if you're building, like, take my advice. Whenever you start to build a habitat, make sure you complete the entire habitat before you actually start doing other things, because you will forget to place lights. I can't tell you how many times I forgot to place a light and I was just like, oh right, the lights. Or how many times I forgot to place bins and suddenly like all my guests were like throwing trash everywhere and they were like, ooh, there's so much litter on the path. And I was like, why? Do you not have trash cans? And I actually forgot to place the trash cans. So always finish the area completely. Finish them with the education, with the donation boxes, with everything you need. Scenery surrounding it as well. Make a work zone for your employees. Name the habitats, because otherwise it's gonna be like, ooh, habitat 8. No, you want the habitat named after the animal that's actually in there. So now we are going to move on to the second animal that we are placing here, and that will be the Nile monitor. And we will also be building a little staff village next to it. As you see in the distance, I already placed a power plant thing there, so you know, needs to have staff area, so that's why it's there. And basically the habitat for the Nile monitor is kind of similar to the one from the Komono dragon. It also has that cave idea, because they don't need a lot of space. So I'm not gonna build a giant habitat for like a few animals that don't really need it, and it will only actually be more difficult to see them. So that's why the habitats are a little bit smaller. I am, however, going to kind of combine these two habitats together. So we are combining them together by using the null barrier, and I was trying to connect the one null barrier to the other null barrier, and I think I got it in one time, but I'm not actually sure. I am, however, going to adjust it a tiny little bit to make it a little bit smaller. And what I didn't notice is that it actually didn't go all the way through, because the null barrier is actually it's actually in the habitat, like the cave goes under the null barrier. So I got a lot of reports from, ooh, dangerous animal escaped, and I was like, oh no, where did it escape? And then it was still in the habitat, it was just behind the null barrier. So, you know, that sucks, but you know, what are you gonna do about it, right? So I mean, what you can do obviously is just null barrier, which I did. And now before we do anything inside the habitat, I wanted to make sure that I finish this platform in the viewing area, because that's pretty important. And now we are just continuing with the same rock system that we did before. And again, we are placing the big rocks first, just because it is kind of a large area and you want it to actually look nice. So big rock first, and then we are decorating it with small rocks. And even more tiny rocks, and then the tiniest rocks as well. Also around the door we are making sure that we have like a pathway. Even though the animals can't actually escape through that, I still want it to look like they couldn't even slip through, so we gotta place a lot of rocks and just make it all look very pretty. Now this habitat, it is kind of weird because this habitat only has one viewing point, and that one viewing point is on top of the viewing platform. So from the normal pathway you can't actually view this animal. So that is why the pathway through it to it is actually like not with stairs but just steep uphill. So make sure like people with wheelchairs and everything, they can still see the Nile monitor. If you want to see a Nile monitor, difficult words, and you're in a wheelchair or you have like I don't know, whatever else, you can still see them. You can just walk up there and you don't have to take like any steps, so pretty easy, you know. So right now we are connecting the rocks to the other habitat of the Komono dragon, and we are using again a very different variation on the rocks, just to make sure that it doesn't look bland or boring or like continuous the same, so that it looks interesting to look at, so that the guest will also say, ooh, this scenery looks so epic. Now I have to say with the Komono dragon, they don't like reproduce that fast, but the Nile monitor, oh my gosh, like I bought 3. I bought 1 male and 2 females. And all of a sudden, like one day we're in, I suddenly had like almost 10 little Nile monitors. They breed like crazy. It's insane, like it's really, really insane. So obviously we put them on birth control. Also, you saw me adjusting my YouTube music because I built with either musicals or music on the background, so, you know. We are gonna adjust the terrain a little bit because I wasn't actually sure that they could climb down, so we're just smoothing it out, making it look pretty. And what I did here, the first thing, is to make everything like sandy, because then you can really adjust the terrain paint easy, because otherwise there is always this one little bit of piece of terrain that you can't discover, and it's like, ooh, you have too much green and you can't actually find the green spots. So to prevent that from happening, I make everything sandy or everything like green first. And while we're waiting for our Nile monitors to arrive in our zoo, we are going to do the education boards and speakers, and I think the donation boxes as well. Now what I am gonna do once I finished this zoo, I am gonna do a full zoo tour, so don't worry about that. And we are also gonna add some like music in there, because I forgot the music, and I know that I've just had a complete lecture about make sure you finish each and every area. And in the beginning I like added music in there, but I forgot, so that's kind of a shame and stupid. But in the end there will be music, so when we are doing the full zoo tour, we will have a lot of music, so don't worry about that, it will be fine. Here we are just adjusting the cave, and I wanted to make it look like a real cave, so with rock. So we're gonna use the smooth rock and then some hard rock, and when you put the density of the paint like not to 100% but like 40, you can create really fun textures. So you have like the grass but with the texture of soil under it, and it looks really, really natural. So I'm quite happy with that. I also wanted to make like every habitat like feel whole and it belongs in the zoo. So right now we are still in the like, we're not in the jungle area anymore, like the South America area. We closed that area off with our anteater. We are close to it, but we are starting off our Africa part right now. So all the animals that we'll be placing here will be placed in Africa, and I already have a great idea for a giant safari that will be coming somewhere next week. I have to like see if it works out with the Australian pack, but my goal is to build an entire safari and have that up and running on YouTube as well for you guys to witness that. And I have so many ideas about how I want it, and in my mind it works out really good, and I'm getting better and better at actually making what I have in my mind. So, you know, practice makes perfect. It really does. It really, really does, and I'm quite happy with it. At this point we are placing some sprinklers for our Nile monitors, because, you know, it is pretty warm and they like water, so why not? Why not? Just indeed, why not? And then we are going to add some rocks again, because it still looks pretty blunt. You know, it didn't look finished, and usually when you add some rocks in there, a little rock formation, it makes it look like much more of a hole. And they also have like an additional shelter, because I do feel like it's very important to have like to give the animals the shelter so that they can actually feel secure and, I don't know, like do stuff that they would usually do. So we have finished the habitat, and now we are building a tiny staff village, and we are having a staff lounge, a vet surgery, a keeper's hut, and a quarantine. And just to be sure, because we are also gonna place a safari around there, and usually when I get safari animals from the market, they have all sort of infections, and we don't want that, so we are placing a quarantine very close. So when we have a lot of sick animals, they can all go to the quarantine, either here or at the beginning of the park where there is also a quarantine. And since this is the start of our Africa area, we are going to use the Africa like settings and build and buy stuff. So we are using the Africa walls, Africa roofs. And I believe we are also going to decorate it with some Africa stuff. because I can't actually remember what I decorated it with, but I do remember that it is decorated. Ah, yeah. So we're gonna add some borders, and then we're gonna add some masks, I think. And obviously we're using the doors. So I was really curious if I use like those doors, if the staff could actually still go in. And they can. So it's good that I know, so I can use that for my other builds and everything. Because I was never actually sure if they could still use it. So, and I think we are actually going to place a tent apparently. I thought we were going to place some African fencing. So, you know, like, I don't know if you guys have it, but whenever I build, I forget like half what I build because I have so many ideas, and I build a lot and then I skip it, so I cut it out of the video and I actually can't remember what I left in and what I left out. I can see that it is a staff area. I did want to have like some benches for them to sit on and everything like that. And you just saw me looking at one of the pre-built like frontier buildings just to make sure like, does it look kind of similar? Because they have some really good African builds and I wanted to do something similar. So we are indeed placing fencing. See, I remembered correctly. We placed it later than I thought. And it's actually, I really like this fencing. I think it looks really nice. And now we are making sure that the Nile monitors are included in this staff area as well. We are placing some more staff and making a work zone for them, and we are actually going to cut to the cinematics very soon. So guys, if you haven't already, make sure you like, comment and subscribe and hit that bell icon, and I will hope to see you guys next episode. Bye guys!